internet of value at Ripple, we're thinking much bigger than just cross-border payments. It's kind of like Amazon with rare books in the early days, just this market happens to be a $10 trillion market.
We are at a historic turning point.
Said in the past that you are doing for money what email did for communication.
Moving the whole revolution forward.
Take on it.
There's trillions of dollars parked around the world. XRP.
Is there a possibility that Ripple could take over Swift one day?
Well,
welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of 24 Hours Script. Let's get right into today's video. Charles Hodgkinson compared XRP to Tether. Pretty crazy. You know what? Just listen to this.
So it's basically like Tether from that perspective. One company gets all the value, and the holders, they get some instrument and they get some network, but they don't actually get any price appreciation from that. Why?
He had more things to say about Ripple and XRP, and honestly, it is disheartening. Again, disheartening in a level of stupidity. I cannot believe this, but you could see that he wasn't invited to the round table meetings. And now he is just venting like a little boy. And the stuff that he says about Ripple and XRP and its holder base, it is mind-boggling to me. We'll get to that in a moment, and your opinion and your thoughts are highly appreciated in the comments down below because I really want to know what the community thinks of his comments. But let's go over something much more important, and that is Ripple's press release that they just released yesterday, April 17th, 2026. And honestly, they should go to jail for this because it is so bullish, and everything that we have been seeing on this channel, they just verified it. And before I read you what they said about ETFs, remember BlackRock has never said a peep about an XRP ETF. And then Ripple says something here that's going to get you thinking that, again, the non-NDAs, non-disclosure agreements are real. And you know there's like people out there that actually think it's BS, which is crazy to me. Talk about not being educated.
I can't give names to people like that, we've transacted XRP with, because that's not, there's NDAs and there's confidentiality agreements. So there are limits to how much we can say.
But take a listen to this. No, don't forget this. BlackRock hasn't said a peep about an XRP ETF yet, and we're in 2026.
Thank you. Advent of Bitcoin ETFs is an example that we're legitimizing it. We're creating more safety.
Well, let me ask you this. Will you do another ETF? How about an XRP ETF? I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well, I can't.
Ripple just said, for years, institutional interest in XRP was expressed through OTC desks, over the counter, private placements, and the kind of quiet conviction that rarely made headlines. Are you kidding me? Are you hearing that? And the kind of quiet conviction that rarely made the headlines. That chapter is over. In the space of a few months at the end of 2025, XRP became one of the most actively adopted digital assets in a regulated spot ETF market, attracting capital from some of the most influential names in traditional finance and cementing its place in the institutional allocation conversation. It gets even better, okay? And remember what Larry Fink said.
XRP ETF. I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well, I can't.
And these influential names, BlackRock being one of them, has not came out and stated that they're going to be going into an XRP ETF, which they're going to, and that alone is going to have an effect on the price of XRP just based off of speculators. Okay, this is going to get crazy, folks. 2026 is going to be a historic moment. You guys know the timeline, the valuation that we are predicting for XRP by the end of this year. Okay, and that is a $7.76 XRP. Could reach $9 at most. Again, very, very conservative targets here. This is the moment. This is the moment, and this press release says it all. Even listen to what they say here. What the team has observed since the launch reflects something the raw inflow numbers also suggest. XRP is being treated as a distinct allocation, not as a substitute for Bitcoin or Ethereum. Institutions are drawn to the payment use case. The XRPL sub 5 second settlement finality its established role in cross-border liquidity, and its integration with RLUSD as a regulated stablecoin layer in a way that positions XRP as a utility-first digital asset rather than pure store of value play. That differentiation is becoming increasingly important to portfolio managers constructing multi-asset digital allocation. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and smash that like button.
Because XRP serves a purpose. It's a function that facilitates cross-border payments. It's not some store of value, kind of arbitrary value that is not pegged to anything. This is actually what legitimate financial institutions use.
XRP holders are going to be rewarded extremely handsomely. The ones that understand how crucial it is to mass accumulate at these prices at $1.50. The ones that listened and the ones that don't comment every single day, that are still here, the silent viewers that mass accumulated like crazy. If you guys remember 2024, right? We were really telling everybody, folks, like, this is not going to stay at 50 cents for a long time. This mass accumulation is going to die out. And now this next leg up is coming, and we have the biggest other signal as well of why this is coming when you have Cardano CEO Charles Hodgkinson coming out here and venting about Ripple and XRP, because he knows they have been handpicked. We already knew Ripple and XRP were handpicked since day one because they had a real use case here that solved a real problem. Ripple came in here with the vision, with the lens of a solution to a problem, right? So,
but very importantly, it has to have a use case. We think the use case for the XRP ledger and XRP, the digital asset, is really around initially reducing the cost of liquidity for cross-border payments. Long term, though, we think it's a key winner in this race to be another digital asset for the world for all kinds of use cases. So that's the way you see it. It's a long-term play, has to have value, can't just be a store of value for store of value's sake, has to actually have a use case, and that's how we see this evolving.
And they looked at it from a multi-trillion-dollar inflow, not just a speculative geeks that wanted to get an asset that was not based off of bankers.
The price of Bitcoin today does not represent value in the same way money has value. As long as two people are willing to pay a certain price, there will be a price for it, but that does not mean that there is value to it.
Again, I'm not saying Bitcoin's for geeks, but I'm talking about the early days of Bitcoin, right? Trying to get away from the dollar, trying to create their own currency. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, take a listen to what Charles Hodgkinson says here, and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.
But don't you think that if Ripple's making all these headlines and the market is bullish again, and that number will go up for XRP, and then that'll help holders out?
You got to understand that they gave themselves like 80% of the supply. I forget the exact amount, but it's somewhere between 70 to 80% went to one company. So the game is make the headlines, make the price go up, sell the XRP to other people, and then use the cash you get from it to buy assets. In this case, like the prime broker and other things. XRP holders have no legal ownership of those assets. They go to a centralized company.
Right.
And then what you do is you basically use the XRP network to run all these types of things, but the XRP token doesn't really have much to say or do with that. And there's no staking rewards or other things that are connected to it. And basically there's a huge value transfer over to one company. So it's basically like Tether from that perspective. One company gets all the value, and the holders, they get some instrument and they get some network, but they don't actually get any price appreciation from that. Why would there be price appreciation for? What about all this ownership in Ripple translates to the XRP token? I can't redeem the XRP token for that prime broker or for Brad's stock options or any of these things. So he's going to use the XRP token to convert to dollars, and they've been doing this hundreds of millions to billions of dollars every year, and they can't deny it because the SEC filings actually showed the liquidation events, and that's what they got sued over. And then they take the cash and they start businesses with the cash, like real USD. You see, when you compare that with what we do with Knight, it's radically different.
To compare that to Tether and to say pretty much like we're getting scammed, like the XRP coming. It's like a nice, polite way of saying that we're getting scammed, and that they're using our money to acquire these billion-dollar deals. And am I saying he's 100% wrong on that? No. But he does, I think he forgets the fact that XRP investors are educated investors. We are not the speculators. You may say, absolutely, you're speculating if you're sitting there and saying XRP is going to go to $10 and it's at $1.50. Of course you're speculating. What are you talking about, you idiot? No, we are not speculating, because we understand the dynamics, the tokenomics of XRP and what it does. We have done the calculation from multiple different perspectives. It is at the end of the day, it is a math-based currency, and the math is indisputable when you talk about real economic activity coming onto a network with limited supply. Like, wake up. Here's the thing. Majority of the people are going to either wake up at these levels, or they're going to wake up. They're going to be forced to wake up. They're going to get water splashed in their face with them wanting or not, because they're going to see these prices for XRP at $5, $7, $10, and they're going to say, okay, like, they're going to itch their head, because then they're going to start thinking about, okay, what do I buy? Do I buy Ethereum? Do I buy BNB? Do I buy Solana? Do I buy Link? Do I buy Elgrand? Do I buy Stronghold? Do I buy so on? The list goes on. Do I buy Sui? Right? Again, you got to understand that level of conviction for the next wave of retail investors coming in. What asset are they going to buy? The majority of the people that are coming in now are going to not choose accordingly, and they're going to miss out on generational wealth. We are at the last buzzer beater for mass accumulation to be able to have enough digital assets for generational wealth. Okay? And it's what you do now is what's going to define literally your bloodline. So, folks, regardless of any kind of, again, we always have to be prepared for any kind of geopolitical event that is going to have a major impact into the markets. Again, there's nothing we can do about it. But with everything that is lining up with the Clarity Act, with everything getting, the pillars being established, it's going to get crazy. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. 2026 is going to be a historic year. We're all going to be walking around with one of the biggest smiles on our faces when XRP does the girth candle that it is anticipating to do.
But I think the idea of buying and holding forever and not trying to make adjustments requires that you've gotten it right in the first place. That you can only hold tight if you've bought right, if you will. And that is to say, have an asset allocation that has something to do with how many years you have to accumulate money, how much resources you have at stake, how much income you need, and how much courage you have to ride out the peregrinations of the market.
Persistent in the future. But XRP, it's really about this very fundamental driver of demand.
My family thinks less of me because I told them to buy XRP, and all my friends quit texting me cause all I talk about's the XCST. When the price rose, it was just like ecstasy, but then it crashed so unexpectedly, and no one's standing next to me, cause I still tell them to buy XRP. Talking about, but I still buy my XRP. If you don't like it, you can suck my DM. Buy my XRP. I guess that's just how it goes. It genders, nobody knows it. While they're laughing, I'm buying more, son. My therapist says let it go, man. I said no, it's all part of the plan. And when the flipping turns the page, I'll be laughing from my yacht's range. 'Cause every time they say it's dead, I load my fucking wallet up instead. And I'm a buy my XRP. If you don't like it, you can suck my DM. Buy my XRP.
I think what we're building has, it's solving a real problem. And I think all of the tokens, my advice to anybody would be, understand the utility. If there's real utility and there's real value being delivered to a real customer, there will be value in the token.